don't.
.905 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. My name is Chris Hand. Hope you are having a fantastic Tuesday morning. We are just getting in the building, getting our feet wet, if you will, in the news of the day. Lots happening last night and yesterday. Donald Trump in Iowa. We had Joe Biden is going to Israel. He's probably on a plane right now. And he's going to be sleepy. He's probably going to have to take the rest of the week off.
Just the week?
Right.
I mean, come on.
Give the man. He'll be back. He'll be back in November. He's going to go there for 2 days, I guess. And then we'll probably get a recap November 1st.
Yeah. Yep.
Going to be sleepy. And then Speaker of the House stuff, that's happening today, too.
Woo.
So there's a Democrat rep, Brad Sherman.
Okay.
And he's been floating this crazy idea. I don't want to spend too much time on this, but it was nightmare fuel for me, so it's nightmare fuel for you. Everybody floated Trump as Speaker of the House.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, Rep. Brad Sherman loves the former president idea. This is who he thought would be a good Speaker of the House.
I could see President George W. Bush serving as Speaker of the House. He could come back and obviously I'm not a real fan of how the Iraq War went, but I would think that any reasonable Republican would be somebody that Democrats could work with if it was part of a system.
No. Nope. I have advice for Brad Sherman and with his hot takes.
Don't.
Sorry, Brad. Terrible take. Not the president we were hoping you were going to say, sir.
Yeah, everyone ears perked up. Like, oh, is he going to say it? And no.
Yeah. Hey, Brad, next time you have an idea.
Don't.
Thank you. Thank you very much. So dumb. But Janet Yellen was on the TV talking about stuff. And every time I see Janet Yellen, I can't help but think she is the sleepiest official that we have in the Biden White House. Her finger is far from the pulse of anything happening in this country. Joe Biden prides himself on dinner table issues. Janet Yellen, she sits at like a dining room table, her and then her husband 50 yards away. Like she sits in an ivory tower. And she drives me mad. She really does. She was asked about, are we going to separate from China? I mean, our economy is tied so closely to theirs.
We are not attempting to decouple from China. We have a deep economic relationship, and that kind of competition, trade and investment is beneficial to both sides, and we want an environment in which it can continue. And third, we need to cooperate on a variety of global challenges. And I would say climate change is an obvious example.
Oh, we can't decouple from China. Our economies are too tight. We got to work on climate change together. As China uses the little tiny hands to dump sludge into rivers and pollute the skies. Let's work on that together, guys. With all of the global tension happening, how can someone like Janet Yellen say that we don't need to decouple from China? We're quite literally on the verge of World War III. I don't know if you've been paying attention to current events, but as our friend Ken Weaver would say, it's bad. It's bad.
Yeah.
We are sending carriers and troops into the Middle East, 2,000 troops just on guard, standing by. And if we get into a global conflict, China will just cut us off. I don't think China is going to take the American route of funding both sides of a war. I have a hard time believing that would happen. But Janet Yellen says, well, don't worry about that. Let's fix climate change.
And this is in the interest of both of us and the globe as a whole. Debt is another area where many countries are heavily indebted. We need to cooperate on debt relief. So I see those as the governing principles. And we are deepening our relationship.
Oh, that's good news. It's actually we're going the opposite way of decoupling. We're going to deepen ties. Perfect. Nailed it, Janet Yellen. That's exactly what we were looking for. Let's not get away from China. Let's move more towards them. And do you hear the way she talks? She is so sleepy. So sleepy. And I don't think she's actually paying attention to anything that's happening in America. For instance, she is under the impression that the economy, solid, rock solid.
Look, the American economy is doing extremely well. Inflation has been high, and it's been a concern to households. It's come down considerably. At the same time, we have about the strongest labor market we've seen in 50 years with 3.8% unemployment. And at the same time, America, the Biden administration, has passed legislation that is strengthening our economy in the years to come for the medium term.
Oh, okay. So the economy's great, and Joe Biden is strengthening the economy. Thank you, sleepy Janet Yellen. Now, never mind the fact that under Biden, prices are up 17.7%. Real wages are down 3.2%. And Americans are currently more worried about paying for groceries, paying bills, than they are in saving for retirement.
Having enough emergency savings and paying monthly bills, get this, have unseated saving for retirement as the #1 concern for workers between the ages of 21 and 64, according to a new survey.
And that survey was done by the Quinnipiac guys. They said food costs top the list of Americans' financial concerns. 68% find they won't have enough money to live comfortably in retirement. And Janet Yellen will get on TV and tell us the economy's doing fine. 68% of Americans are concerned they won't have enough money to live comfortably in retirement. And I'll tell you what, the guys that have saved enough for retirement are watching that dwindle because of the rampant inflation from the Biden administration. You want to save up enough money to live into your golden years? Well, guess what? You got about 50% less because of the way things are going in this country. Your spending power is gone. When you were planning for retirement, you didn't picture eggs going to, $6 for a dozen of organic eggs now? $6 for a gallon of organic milk? And I say organic because that's what I buy with young kids because, the other stuff is pumped full of chemicals. So if you want the stuff pumped full of chemicals, you can save a buck or two.
Mm-hmm.
But they get on TV. They tell us that the economy's doing great. The top 3 financial concerns broken down by age, according to the Quinnipiac poll, all right? 18 to 34-year-olds are worried about mortgage or rent payments at 23%, college tuition at 20%, and food costs at 19%. 35 to 49-year-olds, food costs, 24%. Retirement savings, 17%.
Ugh.
Mortgage or rent payments, 15%. Of course, it dips down a little bit for the mortgage and rent because they were locked into lower rates.
Yeah.
The interest rates keep climbing in this economy, so the younger you go, the more unlikely it is to buy a house. So you don't really worry about mortgage payments because you don't have them because you can't afford $100,000 for a down payment on a house.
Thanks, Joe.
Yeah, thanks, Joe. We did it, Joe.
We did it.
50 to 64-year-olds are worried about retirement savings at 25%, food costs at 23%, and healthcare at 19%. 65 years of age and older, retirement 26%, food costs 22%, healthcare 20%. But that 35 to 49-year-old gap, those are adults with young kids, 35 to 49 years old. Food costs come in at 24%. You have parents out there that are more worried right now in this current economy of putting food on the table than they are about saving for retirement. It's unbelievable. And what caused this? Well, according to the Quinnipiac University School of Business professor of finance, Osman Kilik, persistent inflation, climbing rates, and a volatile stock market are likely contributing to worries about everything from putting food on the table to getting medical care. Thanks, Joe. This is Bidenomics working.
It's working.
It's working. Now, according to that same poll, Americans have indicated that they have cut back on a wide range of items and activities. 63% of Americans say they've cut back on dining out. Do you think that's going to positively impact the economy? Entertainment or leisure activities like going to the movies, shows, or sporting events. 62% say that they've cut back on that. Vacation plans, 61% say, yes, we've cut back on that. Clothes shopping. Clothes on your back, 61% say, yes, they've cut back on that. Consumer electronics, 52% say, yes, we've cut back on that. Home improvement, 52%. Grocery shopping, 44%. What about when you're thinking about your personal financial situation? You know, Americans say these economic conditions have caused them a delay to buying a vehicle, purchasing of big items such as furniture or appliances, buying a home. Of course you're delaying buying a home with interest rates like this. It does feel like old Klaus Schwab in the World Economic Forum, you will own nothing and be happy. It does feel like we're getting there, doesn't it? Buying a home is unaffordable. Buying a vehicle is unaffordable. People are delaying buying furniture or appliances. It's crazy. You'll own nothing and be happy. You know, yesterday in Ken's news report, he reported that Best Buy is no longer selling DVDs and Blu-rays after this upcoming holiday season. You will own nothing and be happy. Janet Yellen doesn't seem to notice any of this going on. She doesn't, because Janet Yellen just is sleepy and apparently eats mushrooms while she's in China. She thinks that Bidenomics is so good that other people should copy it. Seriously, that's what she thinks.
Do you think that the UK should copy Bidenomics and what you've enacted in America?
Well, I think it's a good program for many economies, for the UK, for the US, and we see many European countries and the European Union moving in this direction as well.
Oh, yeah. You know, if I was Joe Biden, somebody said, hey, should we try Bidenomics in our country? You know what I would tell them? Do you have any idea?
Don't.
That would be my advice.
Yeah, I'd be screaming it,
That's
pleading to them.
That's what I would say. He would probably tell us it's working. That's what Joe Biden would say.
Oh, yeah.
It's working.
What's working?
I have no idea.
Like, what's Janet talking about? I'm just confused. What is...
She is honestly selling a bill of goods in this interview. She goes on to say interest rates will continue to rise. And then this is with all of the stuff, like I expect her to lie about how good the economy is doing. I expect her to try and sell what they're doing in the Biden administration. We can all plainly see it's failing. We can. But the jump the shark moment for me was this part.
I know you're not backing a woman to be president in the next election because I know you'll be backing President Biden loud and clear. Does he still have the energy for another 5 years in the job?
Absolutely. He's very involved, very vibrant.
Vibrant.
What?
Would you describe Joe Biden? would vibrant be the word that you would use to describe Joe Biden?
Bingo.
That's crazy.
John in Lawrenceburg said, Chris, what are you complaining about? It's working.
Yeah, Chris, come on.
Yeah.
Be grateful.
How would you describe the economy currently?
Very vibrant.
Yeah, nailed it. She said Joe Biden is vibrant. Gosh. Maybe compared to Janet Yellen, he's vibrant. Yeah. Maybe when you put the two of them next to each other, Joe does seem vibrant. Yeah, the death rattle. Oh my gosh. I forgot about that. How bad is that? The man has so many gaffes that I forgot about the death rattle. Death rattle.
The vibrant death rattle, might I add.
It is a vibrant death rattle. You're absolutely right, young Mac. It is a vibrant death rattle. One of the most vibrant death rattles we've ever heard. And then Joe Biden's going to Israel. He's going to Israel. He'll be there tomorrow. I can't help but think the only thing we're going to get out of it is World War III, maybe a stumble down the stairs, definitely some gaffes, and potentially another vacation, giving Joe some time off till November, because it's a long flight. And despite what other people think, I don't agree with Janet Yellen's assessment that the man is
very vibrant.
I don't know. I can't get on board with that. I just can't. Even the way she said it, she's like very, like she's searching for that
yeah,
word.
She's like, what is he?
Very vibrant.
Nailed it. Nailed it. She got back to the White House. They were like, yo, good job.
Nice. Vibrant.
Vibrant. We're going to use that. Send the word out. Vibrant's the new one. It's 9:20 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Mark, Howard, I see you guys on the line. We'll get to your calls next on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Hey, it's Chris Hanford, Paul Winkler, Inc. We were just talking about the economy. And listen, it is your job to have a financial plan for you and your family. Nobody else is going to do it for you unless you link up with my guy, Paul Winkler, and his team at Paul Winkler, Inc. Now, when I was trying to come up with my financial plan with my wife for our 4 kids in the future, we didn't really know where to start. But we've been listeners of Paul's radio show in Nashville since we moved here about 8 years ago. And when I had the chance to link up with Paul and his team, I knew that I was in the right place. Now, because Paul and his team hold themselves to a higher level of fiduciary standard, I'm required to tell you that I get paid every time this commercial airs. That's fair. But that's not why I decided to become a client. I decided to become a client because Paul and his team, they base everything on education. And for a guy like me, that means a lot. Paul can break things down in a way that I can understand and help me make the financial moves that impact my family. And nothing that his team does is done on commission. So I know when they're telling me how to make these financial moves, they're doing it with my family in mind, not their family in mind, like some sales guys might. These guys aren't sales guys. They're financial advisors. And every office is run by a degreed planner with over 20 years of experience. You can feel the difference between Paul's team and the rest, so do what I did. Talk to one of his team members today. You can set up a complimentary 15-minute phone call right now on his website, paulwinkler.com. That's paulwinkler.com, or call 615-851-1950.
Israel-Hamas war continuing coverage. The United Nations says no food, fuel, or fresh water in Gaza for a week now. Channel 4 says 2 women have been booked into jail after a Walgreens employee had gasoline poured on her. These stories and more at 9:30 on Supertalk 99.7 WTN.
I thought those stories were reserved for Detroit. What's going on?
Yeah.
Jeez.
Yeah.
9:28 on Supertalk 99.7 WTN. My name is Chris Hand. We were talking about Janet Yellen. She described the president as
Vibrant.
vibrant. And you guys on the super text line didn't take long. This is so funny. A lot of you guys, I can't read some of them. So, but I can read Kathy's. Kathy texted. She said, "Chris, one of the definitions of vibrant is quivering, pulsating. A similar word, shaky."
That's it.
Nailed it.
Vibrant.
So, whenever you hear Janet Yellen or somebody from the Biden administration say,
Vibrant.
remember to think shaky. Shaky. Mark in Lynchburg, real quick. You have a comment on Bidenomics. Mark, you're on Supertalk 99.7 WTN. What's up, Mark?
Yes, our church just did a 5-year review on insurance, and due to the insurance reevaluation and everything going up so much, our church was valued over $500,000. That throws us into a business/commercial rate. Instead of paying $3,000 a year, we go to $13,000.
Bidenomics, Mark. It's working. That
Yes,
means
sir.
that means
Yes,
it's
sir.
working.
All day long. All day long. It hits you twice, not only home, where you go to worship, work, or wherever.
Crazy. I'm sorry you're dealing with that, Mark. Thanks for the call. I really appreciate it. Bidenomics working hard at home in Lynchburg, Tennessee. Bidenomics. It's everywhere you want to be, right? It's working. But
It's working.
It's working. Thanks to our very
Vibrant.
president. 9:30 on Supertalk 99.7 WTN. Ken Weaver's got the news.
$9:30 on the dot. I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories. Got a crash in Robertson County blocking the right shoulder of 24 westbound in Cedar Hill. And then 40 westbound right before Briley Parkway East. You've got the left lane blocked here in Nashville. The United Nations says no food, fuel, or fresh water's arrived in Gaza in more than a week since Israel imposed a blockade as part of its response to Hamas launching a deadly attack on Israel. Hospitals say they're running out of supplies. Fresh off a federal judge placing a gag order on him, former President Trump is in a Manhattan courtroom today in his civil fraud trial over corporate earnings reports. Reports say the former president frowned at Attorney General Letitia James when she entered. And right now in Nashville, Channel 4 says 2 women were booked into jail Monday after what happened at a Walgreens in September. Police say an employee at the store on Murfreesboro Pike caught T'Chaka Waters and Latavia Waters shoplifting, asked them to leave. That's when T'Chaka Waters left and returned with a gas can and allegedly poured it on the employee, who was then assaulted by the women. Both women are charged with aggravated assault with a deadly weapon, but then released on bond. That's the latest news. Weather's next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News.
Hi, I'm Paul Winkler. We know that diversification is an important part of the investing process, but how do you reduce risk of a portfolio through diversification? Well, you use correlations. Now think of bathing suit sales and suntan oil sales. They tend to move together, right? Think of bathing suit sales versus winter coat sales. More dissimilar movement, and that's the idea. But why is diversification so important? Well, think about it this way. Everybody would like to have this happen with their investments. They just go straight up. But what we know is this is really what tends to happen. Markets may go way up and then down, or down, then way up. Now let's say if we isolate parts of that curve right there, and the first curve right there, and the second curve right there. If you're putting money away for retirement, every time you put money in, if this is what's going on, you're buying more shares. Then just before you retire, the market goes up, you're really happy. If on the other hand, you keep paying a higher and higher price, and then the market goes down, you're really sad. And we can't choose what's going to happen with the market next. But what we can do is what we know through academic research, and there are Nobel Prizes awarded for this, is we can look for things that tend to move in dissimilar fashion. And what happens when we do that, we reduce we can reduce the volatility of the portfolio, hence bringing those curves in. Now that's the idea. Now if you want to learn more about our approach to investing and financial planning, go to paulwinkler.com and set up a free 15-minute phone call. Or you can call 615-851-1950.
And they're getting beaten very badly by me in the polls. They think the only way they can catch me is to stop me from speaking. They want to take away my voice. And a judge gave a gag order today. Did you hear that on speech? Which I believe is totally unconstitutional what she did. A judge gave a gag order. A judge doesn't like me too much. her whole life is not liking me. But she gave a gag order. You know what a gag order is? You can't speak badly about your opponent. But this is weaponry all being done because Joe Biden is losing the election and losing very, very badly to all of us in the polls. He's losing badly. But what they don't understand is that I am willing to go to jail if that's what it takes for our country to win and become a democracy again.
That was Donald Trump last night in Iowa. It's 9:38 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. My name is Chris Hand. Oh, man, don't you remember when we had a just absolutely based president in the White House? Not a resident-in-chief who needs to take naps after overseas trips. Joe Biden is heading to Israel. He'll be there tomorrow. I keep imagining that he's going to get there, look around and go, wait a second, this isn't Ohio. I thought you said we were going to Palestine. No, sir. No, sir. We're in the Middle East. I thought we were going to the Midwest. What? I keep just imagining that.
Where am I? What's going to happen to me?
Nobody knows. Where's the train accident? I mean, it's not a stretch with our sleepy president that he may have that.
That's the sad part.
It's not a stretch. It's sad. It's sad. All right, I want your calls, your texts on the super text line, the phone line, 615-737-9986. It does feel, and yes, I knew these texts were going to come in, and I felt the same way. Everybody's, we're not a democracy, we're a constitutional republic. The whole quote is fire, and then he says we're going to be a democracy again. And as I'm doing my show prep last night, I was like, the super texters are going to mention that this is a constitutional republic.
Yep.
Noted. We understand.
We got it.
Mac and I agree.
Yep.
Sure do.
100%.
Constitutional republic.
Correct.
Just put it on the record. It's like 10 texts. But we used to have a serious president. Trump said a lot of good things in Iowa last night. I don't know if you've caught this. He does have a gag order now. He does. MSNBC reported on that. The gag order it's crazy, man. This is even MSNBC points out the fact that we're in uncharted territory here.
Minutes ago, Judge Tanya Chutkan announced from the bench that she will impose a partial gag order on former President Donald Trump. Specifically, she will prohibit all parties in the case, including Mr. Trump, from making or reposting any statements publicly targeting the special counsel, his staff, the judge's staff, or court personnel.
So he can't say anything about Hack Smith, special prosecutor Hack Smith. You know, the guy that can get hit by a truck and show up to court the next day, that guy. I don't think he was going to say anything about him anyway. I mean, he calls him deranged, but now he can't, so we will. Deranged Jack Smith.
And also will prohibit statements about potential witnesses and the subject of their testimony. So, for example, Mr. Trump will be able to criticize former Vice President Mike Pence, who, after all, he's running for president against in the Republican primary, but he won't be able to talk about Mr. Pence's potential testimony in this election case, in which, of course, Mr. Pence is a key witness. And this came after a 2-hour hearing, Andrea, that really put in.
So he can talk about Mike Pence in terms of the presidential race, but as far as Mike Pence effectively turning state witness against Donald Trump, he's not going to be allowed to comment on that. So, you know, when they say, "Hey, Mr. Trump, how do you feel about Mike Pence narking on you?" He'll just have to hit him with a, "I don't know." He'll have to go full Pence himself.
I don't know.
But MSNBC goes on.
Witness. And this came after a 2-hour hearing, Andrea, that really put on stark display the clash here between the First Amendment and Donald Trump's ability to speak as he's running for president, and a judge's interest in keeping an orderly courtroom, preventing witnesses and participants from being intimidated, and preventing a jury pool from being tainted. And what this judge concluded is that these inflammatory statements that Donald Trump has been repeatedly making, calling the prosecutor deranged, attacking the judge, attacking witnesses, are out of bounds and have the potential to intimidate and even spark violence, threats from the public at large, and that he shouldn't be allowed to make them. Now,
should they worry about actual violence? Like, nobody ever goes after Antifa. Nobody goes after. I mean, there was a Supreme Court justice who had his house surrounded over Roe v. Wade. Were there any charges filed there? Was anybody arrested? They don't go after anybody for any actual violence. They go after people for words now. He can't say deranged Jack Smith. Oh, does Jack get his feelings hurt? Is Jack not a big boy? Potential witnesses. This isn't a case where he violently assaulted someone. This is not on that level where witnesses are going to fear retaliation. It is a First Amendment violation. You are effectively gagging the president from speaking his mind. It's unreal what we're watching in real time. They're going after him, and then now they're violating his constitutional rights.
What Donald Trump's lawyers say that they will immediately appeal this order, and there's every reason to believe that the Supreme Court will ultimately have to weigh in on this. We're in uncharted territory here with a presidential candidate who has been gagged by a judge.
Uncharted territory. I mean, these are all stemming from the accounts Smith brought against Trump August 1st, conspiracy to defraud the United States, conspiracy to obstruct an official proceeding, obstruction of an attempt to obstruct an official proceeding, and conspiracy against rights. It's hot garbage. It's all hot garbage. It's a witch hunt. They're going after Trump because they know that they can't beat him. Trump said it himself, and he nailed it. But it was the other stuff that Trump said last night in Iowa that really stuck out to me. We used to have a president that made sense, you know? Am I the only one that remembers that? I know. It was a simpler time. Mean tweets, cheap gas, and a safe United States.
Making America great again must begin with making America strong and making America safe again. We have to make it safe. It's not safe. Our country is in such trouble. Under my leadership, the world's thugs and villains and killers and savages were in retreat and running scared. They were running scared. All because you had a president who stood up for America. We took a lot of heat for doing it.
He did stand up for America every chance he got. And as far as America not being safe again, I mean, you can look at any headlines. It's absolutely insane. There was a shooting at a Texas State Fair. 22-year-old Cameron Turner. There's a video of Chicago teens attacking a Tesla during a quote-unquote street takeover while police stand by and watch. You can go down the list. You can go down the list. These big cities have turned into bleep holes. Third world country status. And the Democrats are the ones to blame. We used to have a president that would stand up to this kind of stuff. Now we have a president who just gets us involved in overseas wars, sends our money to Ukraine, and tells us that everything here is great. I'm tired of it. And we wouldn't have had these overseas wars if it wasn't for our weak and ineffective leadership. Trump says so himself.
We have war in Europe and war in the Middle East because we have the weakest and most incompetent president in American history.
Weakest and most incompetent president in American history. Is he wrong? Is there a weaker or more incompetent president in history than Joe Biden? I'll let you weigh in on the super text line. I don't think that is true. I don't think that we've ever had anyone as weak or ineffective as Joe Biden. I mean, just the difference between the two men is unreal. Absolutely unreal. Trump comments and he says, you know how Trump kept us out of war? Trump makes the comment, it was his personality.
My personality kept us out of war. We didn't have any wars. I was the first one in, I think they say 76 years. We won wars and we brought them back. We defeated ISIS. ISIS was supposedly going to be like 4 years to beat them. I did it in 4 weeks, less than 4 weeks. And we got 100% of the ISIS caliphate. I remember when I was at 99% in the media, the fake news back then. Ooh, that's a lot of news. It's a lot of fake news. But they were saying, don't He's leaving before he completes the task. I said, can Russia, can Iran, can Iraq, which, by the way, is sort of Iran, if you want to know the truth. Another great move by a certain politician who probably ranks right up there with, nobody ranks, by the way, close to the one we have now.
Yeah, nobody's as bad as him. But he's right. His personality kept us out of wars. You know, he's famously quoted as saying that he told Putin, if you take Ukraine, I will nuke Moscow. So, well, did he believe you, Mr. President? He said, 5%. But that's enough. And it was enough. Trump had a level of crazy that you just, I don't know if we want to try him. Let him do his businessman things. Keep that level of crazy. Don't you remember the tweet where he threatened the leader of North Korea? Hey, I have a red button on my desk too. Mine works.
Oh, yeah.
You remember that?
I do.
And what happened months later? He entered the DMZ and we had peace with that nation. That level of crazy, that personality did keep us out of war. Unfortunately, now the personality that we have is weak and ineffective.
Country, any organization, anyone thinking of taking advantage of this situation, I have one word: don't.
Oh, strikes fear into the heart of his enemies, doesn't he? It's unbelievable. And now I feel like we're on the verge of World War III. I'm not the only one that thinks that. It certainly seems like if this conflict in Israel gets any worse, other guys are going to be jumping in. We have Israel launching attacks into parts of Syria, parts of Lebanon. We have aircraft carriers going to the Persian Gulf, hanging out. 2,000 boots headed there right now. U.S. Marines. I mean, we're effectively in this war. You do know that, right? The U.S. told 2,000 troops to be prepared to deploy to the Middle East as the second aircraft carrier is moved to the Mediterranean and Israel's ground invasion of Gaza nears. We are effectively in this war already. What happens next? Iran gets involved. They're already barking threats. If Iran gets involved, then we're involved. Fully, officially. If we're involved fully, officially, then Russia, China. It's crazy, man. And then where do we go from there? Well, I fear that we would be in a draft situation. Recruitment numbers are so low in the military. I fear that we would be in a draft. But you look at who would be drafted. 1 in 10 Americans aged 18 to 29 have a positive view of Hamas. They have a positive view of the enemies. This same group of people aren't joining the military. 18 to 29-year-olds are the only group to have a negative overall view of Israel. So nobody's going to be signing up to go fight for Israel just because. This isn't going to be like after 9/11 where people felt it was their patriotic duty to go sign up. In retrospect, hindsight's 20/20, right? The Iraq war was an absolute mistake. And a lot of people that did sign up for that look back on it now and go, what for? When you see how the government treats veterans, you see how the United States government treats the people that served in these wars, not very kindly. So there would have to be a draft. There would have to be a draft. Would you support a draft? Do you think people would jump all in to this conflict? Tell me what you think. 615-737-9986. I'll take some of your calls next. I do want to know what your opinions are on this. I feel like at this point, a draft is inevitable. I mean, that poll, 18 to 29-year-olds are the only group to have a negative overall view of Israel. They're not going to be signing up. They're not going to volunteer for this. And I'm not saying that I want World War III. I don't at all. But it looks like we're headed there no matter what. And if 18 to 29-year-olds aren't signing up, well, then a draft would be imminent. And why do 18 to 29-year-olds have a negative overall view of Israel? Well, maybe it's because 18 to 29-year-olds know that the media lies to them all the time. And when the media tells us Israel's good, maybe they think that's just another lie as well. Crazy times, my friends. Your call's next at 615-737-9986. It is Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Still got those crashes I was telling you about. Robertson County, you got the right shoulder block 24 westbound after Maxey Road. And then north of downtown, 65 northbound. That's going to be right there at the 24 exit downtown. Israel-Hamas war continuing coverage. U.S. military muscle flexing. Metro Council takes up some issues today impacting Nashvillians' lives. And former President Trump. Hear what he said before going into a courtroom today. These stories and more at 10 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
I can't wait. I bet it was absolutely based and red-pilled.
If he is nothing else, he is consistent.
Amen. It is 9:59 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. On the way, I want your calls. Do you think World War III is imminent? Do you think a draft is coming? I mean, none of this would have happened if we had President Trump in office. He says it himself.
The heinous attacks on Israel this month would never have happened if I was your president. Zero chance of that happening.
Zero chance. And I tend to believe that we would have had zero chance of World War III happening as well. You know, Biden, everybody said Trump would cause World War III. Biden said he's here. The adults are back in charge, and look at the mess we're in. Depending on who you ask, it's working. 10 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Ten o'clock on the dot. I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories. Full forecast in 2 minutes. Israel-Hamas war continuing coverage.
As Israel continues airstrikes in Gaza in preparation for a ground invasion, the U.S. has been positioning more military assets in the region as a way to deter other bad actors from entering the conflict. ABC's Martha Raddatz says the Defense Department has its eyes on Hezbollah along Israel's northern border with Lebanon.
2,000 U.S. troops now on alert for possible deployment to the Middle East to provide intelligence and medical support if needed. And a second U.S. aircraft carrier and its warships now set to join a carrier strike group already in the Mediterranean.
President Biden will be visiting Israel tomorrow, discussing Hamas's attack, including the nearly 200 hostages taken.
We'd like to see the hostages released right now, and they ought to be. Hamas just let everybody go. But we're working hard to secure their release. Honestly, it's as soon as possible is the time frame that we're focused on.
National Security spokesman John Kirby.
That is Sherry Preston reporting. Right now in Nashville, Metro Council preparing to meet later today. Votes are scheduled on a resolution to accept state grant money to put an SRO in every school. But right now, Metro Police says they don't have enough staffing to do it in the elementary schools. Metro Council holds its first reading on a license plate reader camera ordinance as well. And fresh off a federal judge placing a gag order on him, former President Trump's in a Manhattan courtroom today in his civil fraud trial over corporate earnings reports. Here's what he said to reporters before heading into the courtroom.
This is a railroading that's all coming out of the Department of Justice. It's all set up by Biden and his thugs that he's surrounded with to try and sneak out an election victory that he's not entitled to win because he's been the worst president in the history of our country.
That is the latest news. Weather is next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News.
Hey everybody, Dan Mattis with Nashville's Morning News on WTN. I'm here at the Nashville Rescue Mission doing the interviews that I look forward to doing every single year. These are incredible stories of people who have had amazing recoveries. Thanks to this amazing facility, they are able to get clean and lead a more productive life. The date of our annual radiothon is going to be Monday, November 20th. Listen in and please donate. You can get more information at 99.7 WTN, including a link to the website for Nashville's Rescue Mission.
Asked you guys what you think. Is World War III imminent? Is a draft imminent? Got a text from 7436. He says, as a retired Army Ranger for 6 years and a Black Hawk helicopter for 15 in the U.S. Army, I will tell you a draft sooner or later is going to happen in this country if we're going to survive. The brainwashing and propaganda that is happening in the education system in the United States is very anti-American military. South Korea does it right. Every male has to give 2 years to the country. It is not an option. We should do the same, but include females, and they can join the military. And if they cannot, then they serve government, either at the city, county, state, or federal level, and administrative jobs. I'm not against everybody doing it. I think it would actually be beneficial. Have you ever seen those videos of gym class in like the 50s, 60s, and 70s?
Yeah.
Everybody's just jacked.
Jacked.
Absolutely jacked. You ever see a video of people at the beach in the 50s or 60s?
Ripped.
No land wells. Just none. I don't know. It's like our diet. Like we've gotten.
Yeah, food is a huge part of
We've gotten lazy in this country. We've gotten overweight.
Yep.
And the younger generation, I mean, they're soft. They're soft. That's why I think a draft would have to happen. None of those guys are signing up.
I know Finland does that too. Not 2 years like South Korea, but you have to serve. I think it's every male, but still.
Israel does it as well.
Yeah, a lot of countries.
It makes sense. And our nationalism is so low. Like, there's no American pride. There's no unity.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe that could help. Scott, Irving College, you got a comment on World War III. What's up, Scott? You're on Super Talk. Hey, Scott.
Hey, thanks for having me. I'm more scared of something happening to Joe Biden, not because I find his policies or leadership even remotely okay, but we got to look at this. Biden's 1, Kamala is number 2. Number 3 in succession, we don't have. Number 4 is Anthony Blinken. Now, I'm not saying the great words of Steve Bannon. There is no conspiracy theorist, but there is no coincidences in the way that the Biden administration have been undermining the American people. Who says they're not devious enough to say, hey, guess what? We have it all in line if something does happen.
Yeah, I mean, I pray that nothing does happen over there, but I get your point, and I thought that myself. Thanks for the call, Scott. I was talking yesterday about knowing that Hamas leadership, all the Hamas holes are hiding in Qatar. Why don't we go after their leadership? Well, I mean, the other side is probably just crazy enough to go after leadership when they know where they are. Maybe.
1037 says, or maybe nobody wants to die or wants their kids to die in a manufactured war.
It does feel like a manufactured war. I get that. It feels like all of this could have been avoided. President Trump said that himself. None of this would have happened if he was in office.
The heinous attacks on Israel this month would never have happened if I was your president. Zero chance of that happening.
No, because he ruled with strength. He led by example. He said his personality kept us out of wars. And I think the opposite is true as well. This guy that we have in office now, his personality is leading us into wars. I mean, does this strike fear into the hearts of our enemies?
What is your message to Hezbollah and its backer, Iran? Don't.
Anthony, you got a comment on World War III. Anthony, you're on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. What's up, man?
Hey, Chris. Thanks for taking my call. So I would fall into that category of potential draft prospects. I was earlier saying the only way I'd go is if Mac was in my platoon. That would be pretty baller.
Yes. I said to Mac a minute ago, I said, Mac, you're 25. They're going to take you before they take me.
Right. Oh, I'm 27, so Mac and I we're right there. But the problem I would have is Mac and I would be sitting ducks, man. We'd be going with all these soy boys.
Mm-hmm.
And on top of that, we would, like the last caller said, this manufactured war would be spilling blood that doesn't need to be spilled. So that would be my only issue with it. I'd have no problem going and serving my country, grabbing my gun and doing what I need to do, but for the right reasons. And this is not the right reason.
No, hey, I totally agree with you. And thanks for the call, Anthony. I appreciate it. I hope that a draft doesn't happen, but everybody signs up for it. You do your selective service paperwork when you get your license at the DMV,
Anthony sounds cool. I'd fight with him.
You'd be
I'd be in his platoon.
You guys would be the only two soy boys, non-soy boys in the platoon. I mean, and then that would weaken us if we do get into a global conflict. It's going to weaken us here at home. You think about how open the border is. We talk about sleeper cells. We talk about Chinese nationals. They're catching Iranian nationals at the border. There's absolutely bad actors in this country. President Trump addressed that last night in Iowa as well.
My personality kept us.
Oh, not that one. Sorry. This one.
I'll tell you the happiest.
Man, I'm messing up. I'm sorry, guys. This one.
But most importantly, we will keep the radical Islamic terrorists the hell out of our country, like I did for 4 years. Like I did for 4 years, I kept them out, right? I wouldn't have said it. I told you I wouldn't have said it. In 3.5 years, I wouldn't have said it. 1 month short, I didn't want to talk about it. But right after we got out, I said, for 4 years, you had no problem. The atrocities in Israel are a horrific reminder that immigration security is truly national security. It really is. It's national security. We have people coming into our country now that are the same people in many cases as did what they did 2 weeks ago in Israel. The purpose of U.S. immigration law is not to protect the world. It's to protect the United States of America. We have to protect our own country.
He's absolutely right. We're not building a border because we hate, a border wall because we hate everybody else on the outside. It's because we love what's in here. We have to keep our country safe first. But it certainly seems like we're headed to a global conflict. Tony texted in. He goes, my son is in basic training. He's not soy. I made sure of that. And he attached a picture of his son, which I will just say thank you for your son's service, Tony, and can confirm, based on the photo, not made of soy.
Yeah, not looking soy boy for sure.
No, wouldn't want to mess with Tony's son.
Based.
Absolutely based. No, and we say this jokingly. I respect more than anything the members of our military and our armed forces. But when you look at the men that have come before us, the men that fought in World War II, the men that raised my father, it's hard to say that men have gotten stronger. You can't really say that men have gotten stronger over time. It seems like we've been weakened as a population, feminized, demasculinated, all the toxic masculinity talk. So I don't take it personally, Tony. I was not trying to insult anyone in basic training. I'm just saying, for the ones that don't want to sign up, the ones that would be pulled in via a draft, I worry about what that would look like, who they would be drafting.
You got Nick, 4107, texting in. 18 to 25-year-olds wouldn't do anything. They've been coddled. They couldn't perform. 25 to 35 may not perform. 35 and older and prior service would be our only hope.
Man, it's dark. It's dark. But 2986 says it best. It's the wussification of America. Mm. That's a real thing. That's really happening. 7815 said, you young fellas don't have to worry about the home front. Your older combat vets got it covered here. Absolutely based and truth-pilled. I mean, I know which neighbors I would go look to for help. They're the combat veterans. I mean,
we had a text too. I can't find it for some reason. Oh, there it is. Brian said, "Women want to be equal. They should be drafted too."
Didn't a guy get in trouble for sharing memes about during the 2016 Hillary run, where he was saying, it's her turn, like let's draft women too, something like that? Didn't that happen? Google that for me. There was a guy. Yeah. I'm pretty sure the guy got in trouble for sharing memes about drafting women and Hillary Clinton being in support of that. I mean, but we're going to have problems here at home. If a global conflict doesn't happen, our border is still wide open. We still have tons of illegal aliens pouring in. And we need somebody in office that's willing to take the slings and arrows to do the right thing. You know, DeSantis called out Trump and said, well, what are you doing about the illegal immigration and the terror problem? It's like Trump already did something when he was in office. Remember the thing they called the Muslim ban? It wasn't a Muslim ban. It was a ban on accepting refugees from terror suspected countries, North Korea, Venezuela as well. But this is what Trump said in Iowa last night.
But as I've already said many, many times before, I will immediately reinstate and expand the wildly successful Trump travel ban on entry from terror-plagued countries, territories, and places. We're going to. They ended it. And it just kept us safe. We wouldn't let people come in from certain countries where there's tremendous terror. Makes sense, right? If you're coming from somewhere full of people who want to kill Americans, we will not let you in.
We will not let you in. I think that's a fair assessment. Pretty based.
Couldn't find the draft meme part of the story, but yeah, Douglas Mackey basically made a tweet of all these like false political ads for Hillary Clinton saying that, hey, like if you want to vote for her, all you have to do is text Hillary to this phone number.
Okay.
So all these people did that.
I might be combining two stories, but there were memes that were awesome. It was like, draft our daughters, Hillary 2016. Like equal rights, draft our daughters.
I will say there's a lot of 18 to 25-year-olds. I would venture to say a lot of them are not soy.
No, this is.
But yeah, some would be. Yeah,
some would be. Some are stuck in woke colleges.
Yep,
and they're in their gender study classes, and they're protesting for Palestine right now.
Yeah, I wouldn't draft those.
No, but was it South Park? They had Operation Human Shield.
Oh yeah.
When the comedies become realities. 7675, second time texter, 7675, welcome back. He says, man buns and fatigues do not strike fear into our enemies. Yeah, if you're coming to the U.S. Army with a man bun, I have a bit of advice for you.
Don't.
All right. 9058 says, no, draft them, please. All right, fair enough. 5651 says, implementing a draft would be difficult. Not only getting politicians to vote to bring it back, but it requires changing military basic training from a voluntary to a compulsory form. I mean, haven't they already lowered the standards in military basic training a bunch of different times? Because the level of recruits that they're getting right now are low. It's like the what I read is that the basic infantry is the quality of basic infantry has gone down, whereas on the flip side, the quality of our special forces has gone way up. That's absolutely fascinating stuff to read about. But we have problems here at home. Massive problems here at home. I mean, the border is wide open. So we got to get that under control as first. And we do have a lot of illegal aliens currently in the country. President Trump addressed that in Iowa last night as well.
In addition, we will aggressively deport resident aliens with jihadist sympathies. We have to. This isn't like being Mr. Nice Guy. We have to, or we're going to have a country that's going to be blown to shreds because bad things are happening.
And he's absolutely right. Bad things are happening. It doesn't take very long to look around you and realize that in 3 short years, has it even been 3 years since Joe Biden took office? I think it's even less.
A little less.
Look at what he's done. This country is falling apart. The border is wide open. Crime is at all-time highs, record numbers in cities across the country. The woke indoctrination of your kids is happening in the public school system. We have global conflicts. Global conflicts. We're still dependent on China. We still haven't gotten our factories back. We are no longer energy independent. And emergency fuel reserves, do we even have those anymore? I think the last I saw was we have 17 days left in our strategic petroleum reserve. Thanks, Joe. We did it. 1020 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. My name is Chris Hand, and this is the Chris Hand Show. Thank you for being here. Hey, it's Chris Hand for my friends at USS, United Structural Systems. Hey, guys, I'm officially on the schedule, getting my crawl space completely encapsulated. Now, when I met the guys at USS, they told me we do a kind of service that you don't know you need it until you know you need it. And when we had a critter down in my crawl space, I poked my head down there first time in a long time, and tell you what, I found out the hard way I needed it. So the guys came through. They gave me an estimate. Two different prices, one which is a little bit cheaper, which is a new system that they're doing, and one which was a full encapsulation, which I chose to go with. And it was quick. It was easy. The estimate process was super simple. I kind of dragged my feet for a little while getting on the schedule, but they didn't pressure me. They weren't texting me nonstop or giving me sales pitches. They were just chill. And when I finally decided, okay, we got to pull that trigger, I was on the schedule, and we're getting it done in a couple days here. I'll post pictures online once I get it done. I'm super excited. I showed my kids a picture of what the crawl space will look like, and they said, can we use that as a clubhouse? Like, that's how neat and clean it's going to look down there. Dad, is that going to be a new clubhouse? I said, no. It can't be. But listen, if your crawl space needs some help, if you're noticing water in your crawl space, wet basement walls, cracks in your basement floors, that's your house trying to tell you something. Give the guys at USS a call to check it out like I did. 615-488-7855. 615-488-7855. And you can have all your questions answered online at USSTN.com.
Got that crash blocking the right shoulder in Cedar Hill, 24 westbound after Maxey Road. And then downtown, you've got 65 at northbound, just north of I-24. The left shoulder is blocked there on that north loop downtown. No let up between Israel and Hamas. Former President Trump in court again. And right now in Nashville, gasoline was used as a weapon. These stories and more at 10:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Thank you, Ken Weaver. It is Super Talk 99.7 WTN, 1025. Got a first-time texter coming in hot. You see 2743 there?
I haven't seen this. No. Oh, here it is. Okay. Wow, first-time texture. Whoa!
Whoa! Right? Whoa! I mean, for a first-time text, it's 2743.
What's he saying, fellas?
He's coming in hot. He's talking about the terror tunnels that the Hamas holes use, and he says flood the tunnels and pump in carbon monoxide. That'll stream them out.
Well, yeah.
That's science. You got to follow the science.
I wouldn't want to hang around for that.
No.
I mean, 2743, first-time text. He's going hard. He's not wasting time with Twitter fingers. He's like, listen, if I'm going to text these guys, I'm just going to give it to them raw. I like it. Thank you, 2743, for texting. Thank all you guys on the text line. 615-737-9986. Phone lines open, too, as well, if you guys want to chime in. We have a lot to get to today, but we were talking about just how bad Joe Biden is. Terry texted in. He said, Chris, Biden emptied the Strategic Petroleum Reserve in an attempt to lower high gas prices and improve his terrible poll numbers. And, yep, he did that. Did his poll numbers improve all that much? I mean, he's still doing pretty bad poll-wise.
I'd say that's an understatement.
Pretty bad. Pretty bad. Trump brought this up last night. It was pretty funny. He said there is a guy who's pretty happy about Joe Biden. Do you know who's the happiest person with Joe Biden?
Who?
Well, you know, I'll let DJT tell you.
I'll tell you, the happiest president in history right now is Jimmy Carter. Because I would say he was a brilliant president by comparison to crooked Joe Biden. I would say Jimmy Carter was a magnificent, brilliant. He was George Washington compared to this guy. But he's a happy man. That's good.
That's good. That's good. That's good.
He's a happy man. That's good.
That's good. You know, is he still in hospice, Jimmy Carter? He didn't die yet, did he?
Don't believe so. Pretty sure still in hospice.
Okay. Sometimes, I mean, the news is so crazy right now. It wouldn't shock me if I missed that. Still in hospice.
Still in hospice.
All right, still kicking. Happiest guy. Happiest president right now. He lived long enough to find out that he was not the worst president in history.
99.
99.
It's crazy.
I mean, at this rate, though, with the advances in modern science, he could live to 130, 140. Easy. But, I mean, is Trump wrong? The happiest president right now is Jimmy Carter.
Yeah.
Like, tell me I'm not the worst president ever. You're not, Dad. You're not.
It's all good now.
Joe ruined everything. They've totally forgot about the gas lines. I promise. It's funny, if you watch old SNLs from the 70s, I think they're streaming on something. I think it's Peacock or whatever. Just pirate them offline, however you do your thing. But if you watch the old 70s SNLs, they'll rip Jimmy Carter over inflation, and you can literally just replace the word Jimmy Carter with Joe Biden, and the jokes are just like we're in 2023.
Wow.
Who wouldn't want to wear a $200 suit? Who wouldn't want to eat a $100 steak? Inflation's not that bad. 10:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. My name is Chris Hand. Find me on Twitter, True Social, Instagram, at Chris Hand on air. Hit the follow button. I will follow back as long as you don't look like a Russian bot. Ken Weaver's got the news right now.
.30 on the dot this Tuesday morning. I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories. Full forecast in 2 minutes. The airstrikes from Hamas militants and Israeli forces are not dying down. More than 4,000 people, both from Israel and from Gaza, have died. Nearly 200 hostages taken from Israel, also thought to be somewhere in Gaza. Hamas has said that non-Israeli hostages could be released if certain conditions are met. Fresh off a federal judge placing a gag order on him, former President Trump's in a Manhattan courtroom today in his civil fraud trial over corporate earnings reports. Here's Janice Yu.
Trump was supposed to come face to face with his former fixer Michael Cohen, but that has been delayed. The former president planning to show up anyway to the courthouse later this morning. Trump arrived at Trump Tower last night.
Yeah, reports say the former president frowned when Attorney General Letitia James entered the room. And right now in Nashville, 2 women face assault with a deadly weapon charges after gasoline was poured on a Walgreens employee for confronting the women for shoplifting. This happened in September at the store on Murfreesboro Pike, according to police. That's the latest news. Weather's next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News.
Hi, I'm Paul Winkler. We know that diversification is an important part of the investing process, but how do you reduce risk of a portfolio through diversification? Well, you use correlations. Now think of bathing suit sales and suntan oil sales. They tend to move together, right? Think of bathing suit sales versus winter coat sales. More dissimilar movement, and that's the idea. But why is diversification so important? Well, think about it this way. Everybody would like to have this happen with their investments. They just go straight up. But what we know is this is really what tends to happen. Markets may go way up and then down, or down, then way up. Now let's say if we isolate parts of that curve right there, and the first curve right there, and the second curve right there. If you're putting money away for retirement, every time you put money in, if this is what's going on, you're buying more shares. Then just before you retire, the market goes up, you're really happy. If on the other hand, you keep paying a higher and higher price, and then the market goes down, you're really sad. And we can't choose what's going to happen with the market next. But what we can do is what we know through academic research, and there are Nobel Prizes awarded for this, is we can look for things that tend to move in dissimilar fashion. And what happens when we do that, we can reduce the volatility of the portfolio, hence bringing those curves in. Now that's the idea. Now if you want to learn more about our approach to investing and financial planning, go to paulwinkler.com and set up a free 15-minute phone call. Or you can call 615-851-1950.
I'll tell you, the happiest president in history right now is Jimmy Carter. Because I would say he was a brilliant president by comparison to crooked Joe Biden. I would say Jimmy Carter was a magnificent, brilliant. He was George Washington compared to this guy. But he's a happy man. That's good.
Anthony texted in and he said, dude, Jimmy Carter's been just hanging on by a thread waiting for this moment. It's 10:35 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. My name is Chris Hand. Got another first-time texter. We were talking about World War III, incoming draft. If one does happen, what does that look like? 4136 says, first-time texter. Gotta call you out, 4136. First time in a year.
Liar.
We got the text history. We got the receipts, 4136. But he says, this young soy generation has played enough Call of Duty that they are ready for combat. Maybe fly drones. Maybe they're ready to fly some drones. I don't know. I don't know about actual combat. But we'll see. They can definitely talk that BS on the comms.
Yeah, I was about to say, we know the comms,
Yeah. They know the hand signals. I like how Mac says, we know the comms.
We know the comms.
Mac is like, oh, yeah, we know. It's like, did you just say you're a part of the soy generation?
I'm 25. I don't know what the cutoff is, but play video games.
What is Generation Soy?
Yeah, I don't know. See, I don't know. I'm right on that line between Gen Z and millennial, so I have no clue.
Okay. I was born in the 80s. So.
Oh, nice. Cool.
Yeah, it was pretty based. Larry says, I'm a first-time texter. No, you're not, Larry. It's 1578, Larry. No, you're not. 2666 says, yes, Call of Duty has prepared me to take enemy claymores and friendly fire. LOL. You guys are terrible. 8521 has an interesting question. Says, how would a draft work with males that identify as females? Would they be considered male in the eyes of the government at this point? Seems like a social game changer. I do believe that they've run into this issue in Ukraine, where they were making them fight anyway. Correct me if I'm wrong. I do remember reading something like that. Could be Russian disinfo, though, so you never know. 4269 says, Mac, you get a pass.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
4209 says, well, I played Duck Hunt. I think I'm ready.
Nice.
Duck Hunt was based. I still don't know how that all worked.
I never actually, I've seen it. I don't think I've actually played it, but I know what Duck Hunt is.
Never played Duck Hunt?
I don't think I actually played it.
Really?
No. And now that's in the new Super Smash Bros. So you play as Duck Hunt. I know. Disappointed.
I'm not even mad. I'm just disappointed. I'm just disappointed in that. It's in the new Super Smash Bros. Get out of here, kid. Take a hike, kid. But to the other texter's point about how would it work with men that identify as females, 4295 texted in says, equal rights. You get drafted too. 7273 says they need to draft the illegals first. I get visions of Rome when people say we need the illegals to fight our wars for us. So, I don't know. 0994 says, I played Frogger on Atari. I'm ready.
Nice.
Is this what the show's going to devolve into? Video game credentials? 3180 says, I played Pac-Man. I should be good in tunnel warfare. All right. Video game credentials aside, guys.
That's a whole section on the forums.
That's it, yeah. What video games have trained you for this? 1631 says, I blew up army guys with firecrackers. I'm ready. Oh, yeah. Well, now with space lasers and all that, if you've melted them with a magnifying glass, you're equipped for the Space Force.
You're halfway there.
There, you know. Rich says, everyone wants to do Patriot stuff until real bullets are whizzing by your head. Men in America are weak and soft, too much Call of Duty and Hot Pockets. Yep. I think Rich is actually right. We have softened in America. We have. So. Somebody texted in commenting on Jimmy Carter. Says Carter has a term left, 4 more years. LOL. Jimmy Carter should announce his candidacy. The Democrat Party would get behind him. They would jump right in line to let everybody know that
vibrant.
He's vibrant. That was Janet Yellen, in case you missed it. They asked if she thought Joe Biden was ready for another 5 years in office.
I know you're not backing a woman to be president in the next election, because I know you'll be backing President Biden loud and clear. Does he still have the energy for another 5 years in the job?
Absolutely. He's very involved, very vibrant, is doing an excellent job. I think when we face the kinds of troubles that we have in the Middle East, you can see the benefit of deep experience and understanding of global issues.
You can understand the benefit of his deep experience of global issues. Yeah, totally. Do you see the deep benefit of his experience on global issues? Unbelievable. These people think we're dumb. And the super texters definitely agree that the current generation is soft.
9510, who's actually a first-time texter, said, my son is 21 and by no means a soy boy. I asked him about a draft. He said, not for this garbage administration, so I guess the war will be at my house when they try to come get him.
Amen. I mean, as a dad myself, it would be hard for me. Like, I always thought that the military would be a great option for my boys. But when you look at the woke leadership, you look at the global conflicts that we're getting involved in, why would I want my boys to sign up for that? Like, I love this country, but I don't want to go send them into that. Do I want my boys to go to basic training and learn DEI and pronoun skills? Is that right up there in basic training necessities? It seems like it is now in this current administration. It's crazy. I mean, it's just we have so many problems at home that we need to fix first. And we look at what's happening in Israel. This conflict is going to expand. It just seems like there's no way that it doesn't. And it seems like we're going to be involved. We're sending 2,000 troops there, getting ready to be. We're sending them that way to be ready for deployment, which means they're being deployed. Meanwhile, domestically, it does look like Jim Jordan is going to be our next Speaker of the House. There were rumors that he made concessions to tie Ukraine funding to Israel funding. Let it go to the House floor for a vote. That's what people were talking about. And is that how he got the vote secured? Well, he did get our boy, was it Mike Rogers out of Alabama, to agree to vote for him. Mike Rogers is, as Matt Murphy says, a squish. He's an absolute squish, and he's on the he's basically just a full-fledged member of the military-industrial complex. Never met a foreign war he didn't want to intervene in, and it seems like maybe there's some truth to that. If a guy like that is going to be down with Jim Jordan, maybe there's some truth to that. Although I don't know if that would get through a House floor vote right now. Do you think that people would want to put their name on a bill that tied Ukraine to Israel funding? And I'll be perfectly honest, I don't want to fund either of those wars. I think it's really hard to get ourselves in the mind state to fund another foreign war that could last for another decade or so. That doesn't really benefit any American interests. We're $33 trillion in debt. We have a border that's wide open. We have Chinese police stations in this country. We have Chinese nationals coming across the border. We have Iranian nationals coming across the border. And it just seems like this is another move by the military-industrial complex to just make money. It's just, I feel personally like Israel has the right to defend themselves, and I feel like they have the capability to defend themselves. We've been funding them to the tune of billions of dollars a year for decades. Decades. I understand that they're talking about, a war on two fronts, and I think that we need to support them, diplomatically, spiritually, pray for them, all that kind of stuff. But I think that this is their fight, and it's not something that I want to get involved in.
Just had a caller call in and discuss the draft, and he basically just said, there's not going to be a draft because there's not enough time to train soldiers. Said it takes around 6 months to train a soldier, and he just thinks it's going to move too quickly.
Really? I don't know. What do you guys think about a draft? 615-737-9986. I mean, I think Jim Jordan's the right guy for Speaker of the House. I think that he's principled enough, and I hope that he doesn't get us involved in these long standing conflicts. Congress is the one that's supposed to declare war, right? Isn't that how the government's supposed to work? Though we haven't declared one since World War II. Right? Like officially Congress declare war?
Yeah, pretty sure. Let me double check, but.
So, I mean, seems like that's just ink and paper these days anyway. So what do we do? Yeah, Matt gave me the thumbs up. I was right. We haven't officially declared a war since World War II. It's unbelievable. But it does seem like we're getting involved in this conflict, whether we like it or not. Biden is visiting Israel tomorrow. I mean, there's a lot happening in the world right now. A lot. Kathy in Nashville, you're on line one. You want to talk about World War III and the draft. Kathy, you're on Super Talk. What's up?
How are we going to fund or staff the military when they can't even figure out what bathroom to go to? They're busy worried about their safe spaces. I mean, I'm 60. Send me. I'm much more capable and much more willing. You've got these young people that have no idea what hardship is, and they're worried about breaking a nail or what bathroom they're going to change in or what uniform they're supposed to wear. We've got a lot of weakness here, and they're gonna play on it.
It's hard to disagree with you, Kathy. Thank you for the call. I really appreciate it. Mike in Nashville, you're next on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. What do you think about World War III and a draft?
Yeah, I'm 81 years old. I'm a combat vet from Vietnam.
Hey, thanks for your service.
Yeah, sure. I got drafted. I didn't want to get drafted. I was 21 years old, just out of college. Got drafted, ended up volunteering for the Air Force and flying an airplane. Spent 3 years in Vietnam. And I can tell you that my attitude about it back then was pretty much like your attitude is now. I mean, I didn't see the value of going to Vietnam. I didn't see what the reason, why we were going there. And I think a lot of people my age are convinced that we shouldn't have ever gone there in the first place.
Mm-hmm.
But I wanted to tell you that I have a little bit different perspective on the men. You said men are not as strong as they were back then when I was a kid. I think that's true. And my perspective on that is probably something that you guys aren't going to like and a lot of your listeners won't like. But I think what's happened is men have become feminized. And what I mean by that is they've been, more influenced by their mothers than their fathers. What made me a man was my dad. He really made me a man. I'll give you an example of that. When I was bullied when I was a kid, when I was 14 or 15 years old, my dad's answer to that was to teach me to punch. And instead of, rationalizing it and saying, well, these people aren't well and all of that kind of stuff, he said, I'm going to teach you to punch. And he did. And the next time the kid bullied me on the bus, I punched him right in the mouth, punched him in the nose. And, there was blood all over the place. And the thing about that is that he never bullied me again. And so it worked. and it didn't turn me into a person that was going around looking for a fight, but it did turn me into a person that knew how to protect myself and was willing to protect myself. And I think we lack that today, because I think mothers are saying, "Oh my God, no, you don't ever teach them to punch. That would be terrible." That's just my opinion.
No, hey, and you know what? You said it's going to be unpopular. I would disagree with you. You said that we might not agree with you. I do agree with you. I think that you're absolutely right. I think that we have been feminized as men in this country on the whole, and I think that a lot of it does go to the fact that single mother households and all of that kind of stuff. It's definitely led to it, and I would even go a step further. The propaganda that you see on TV, you look at all the main TV shows, even going back to the late '80s, early '90s. It's a dumb dad, kids that run all over him, and a wife that's in charge of the household, and it led to the fact that everybody thought that their dads were weak and ineffective and dumb, and it's just this propaganda campaign that's been targeting us for decades, I feel like.
Right.
Hey, man.
Totally agree.
Hey,
I didn't think you would agree, but I'm glad you do.
No, I absolutely agree. I just see with my eyes, Mike. I'm not trying to call it any other way. I just call it like I see it, and I appreciate the call. Thanks so much. 10:51 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Robert, Mario, Kane, and Jimmy, hang on the line, guys. We're going to get to your calls next, right here on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Still got that crash in Robertson County. The right shoulder is blocked 24 westbound right after Maxey Road. That's about a 26-minute delay. There's no let up between Israel and Hamas airstrikes, and the House of Representatives may start voting any moment now to try to seat a speaker. These stories and more at 11 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Thank you, Ken Weaver. Trump just jumped on Truth Social, and he posted support for Jim Jordan.
Yeah,
he'll be a great Speaker of the House. Looking forward to that vote. Mario on line 3. You have a comment on World War III in the draft. Real quick, Mario, what's up? You're on Super Talk.
Yes, thank you for taking my call. No draft. No, at all. I don't mind cheering behind them, saying, come on, you can do it. But I know that the war industrial machine wants to sell their missiles and bombs and all because they can't keep them all in warehouses. But we can all send them. We don't need to send our kids.
Hey, amen. I'm with you, Mario. We'll take more of your calls next on World War III in the draft. You know, it's gonna be hard for the military-industrial complex to make money as these space lasers are getting more and more efficient. The Iron Beam. We talked about that yesterday.
Yep.
Israel's deploying lasers in conjunction with their Iron Dome, and a laser costs $2 to fire, whereas the missiles are upwards of $50,000. So, I mean, they got to find new ways to make money for the military-industrial complex. Boots on the ground is definitely one way. Ken Weaver's waiting in the weeds. He's got your headlines right now on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
$11 o'clock on the dot this Tuesday morning. I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories. Full forecast in 2 minutes, and Israel-Hamas war continuing coverage.
According to the United Nations, no food, fuel, and little fresh water has entered Gaza in over a week. Hospitals say they are running out of supplies, and the U.S. says it's working on humanitarian corridors into the territory. ABC's Karen Travers has more on President Biden's planned trip to the region tomorrow.
After visiting Israel, President Biden will travel to Amman, Jordan, where a key focus will be on humanitarian needs in Gaza. National Security spokesman John Kirby telling ABC,
it's really on the humanitarian front, and he'll be hitting that not only hard while he's in Israel, but when he goes to Amman, Jordan, and speaks to President Sisi of Egypt, President Abbas of the Palestinian Authority, and, of course, King Abdullah.
The U.S. Monday announced an agreement with Israel to develop a plan to enable humanitarian aid from donor nations and organizations to reach civilians in Gaza. Karen Travers, ABC News, Washington.
Committee to Protect Journalists has said it's confirmed the deaths of at least 16 journalists in Gaza and Israel since the war erupted.
Yeah, the airstrikes from Hamas militants and Israeli forces aren't dying down. More than 4,000 people, both from Israel and from Gaza, have died. Right now in our nation's capital, the House expected to take its first full floor vote on a new speaker right around this time. Jay O'Brien says Jim Jordan of Ohio's the sole nominee.
By our count, he's short at least 10 votes. We've heard from at least 10 Republican lawmakers who said last night, after they emerged from a House Republican meeting, that they would not be backing Jim Jordan in a floor vote today. But that is not stopping Jim Jordan from bringing this to the floor for a vote, trying to force those holdout votes to essentially cave.
Yeah, this could go into tonight. Later today in Nashville, Metro Council votes on a resolution to accept state grant money to put a school resource officer in every school. But right now, police in Nashville say they don't have enough staffing to put an SRO in elementary schools. And Metro Council holds its first reading on a license plate reader camera ordinance. That's the latest news. Weather is next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News.
Hey everybody, Dan Mattis with Nashville's Morning News on WTN. I'm here at the Nashville Rescue Mission doing the interviews that I look forward to doing every single year. These are incredible stories of people who have had amazing recoveries. Thanks to this amazing facility, they are able to get clean and lead a more productive life. The date of our annual radiothon is going to be Monday, November 20th. Listen in and please donate. You can get more information at 99.7 WTN, including a link to the website for Nashville's Rescue Mission.
We really want to run against Trump, but they don't. And the way I look at it, we beat him twice. Now we have to beat him a third time. We beat him. We beat the hell out of him the second time. Think of it. Think of it. Think of it. We did much better the second time than we did the first. Remember that.
And now we have Joe Biden in office. Global conflict. It's looking like World War III. And if it's World War III, I have to imagine that there would be a draft. I do. You know, if you Google draft, military draft, just tons of articles saying there's no draft coming. And immediately I go, well, that means a draft's coming. Am I the only one that thinks that? Like, I remember when there were tons of articles that said the COVID vaccine works. Well,
this means.
Okay. All right. Duly noted. Okay. Robert in McMinnville, you got a comment on World War III in the draft. What's up, Robert? You're on Super Talk.
Good to talk to y'all, and thanks for taking my call. My oldest son just recently joined the Coast Guard, and he's in basic training up in New Jersey right now. I think you got to leave it up to the young men whether they want to join the military or not, only because why would you want anybody in there that doesn't want to be there and that's moping around and complaining that they have to be there, and it's obviously just going to be a casualty. But with anything, you would only want people that are in there because they want to be in there. My son wanted to be in there because he really wanted to serve his country, and he wants to aviation mechanics is what he really wants to do in there. But he just wanted to serve his country, and he chose the Coast Guard because obviously it would be the last out of the 5 branches to go to war overseas. But he wants to protect his coast and whatnot. But my comment really boils down to this. No draft, just whoever wants to join, let them join so that we have the ones who really want to be there. And the ones who don't want to be there, they can do something else to be helpful here in America.
Hey, no, I agree with you, and thank you for your son serving. I do appreciate it, Robert, and thanks for the call. And I don't want to make it seem like I'm anti-military service. I'm looking at some of these polls, and it just seems like they aren't recruiting at the numbers that they used to recruit at. Like, that's across the board, all the branches. You look at the approval rating for Israel with the demographic that would be fighting in the war, that 18 to 35, it's the youngest out of any demographic in the country. So if we do go to a full-scale global conflict because of this war between Hamas and Israel, and if that expands to Iran and expands every which way, Russia, China, that group of men that traditionally fight in these wars, they aren't supportive of Israel. So they aren't going to be signing up. Do you get my rationale there? So if they're not going to sign up, then who's going to fight the war? Daily Mail had a poll, said 18 to 29-year-olds are the only group to have a negative overall view of Israel. Well, and if this conflict boils down to Israel, that's our fighting male group. That was from a poll from JL Partners. They polled 1,000 people for Daily Mail to get a snapshot of American attitudes toward Israel and Hamas in the unfolding conflict. For me, I just feel like they aren't signing up for this. So you would have to have a draft, right? Billy in Murfreesboro, you have a comment on World War III in the draft. What's up, Billy? You're on Super Talk.
Hey, Chris, what's up, man?
Hey, how we doing?
Pretty good. Listen, I'm 61 years old, but I'm a Marine. Once you earn the Eagle Globe and Anchor, you never lose it. Nobody can take it away from you. But, the guys that grabbed their muskets and ran out to fight the British, they necessarily didn't want to be there. Every time our country's gone to war, no one's really wanted to be there. So if we, left the defense of freedom up to people that just wanted to be there, we would already be, speaking German or Russian.
But do you discount the fact that, like, after Pearl Harbor, there was a strong sense of nationalism? People felt like we were attacked, or after 9/11, there was that strong sense of nationalism. People signed up. There have been moments in time where people did want to go fight for this country.
Yeah. And that's not what I'm saying. I totally agree with you. 9/11 was a perfect example. But, what I mean is when people are drafted, because I agree with you, that's coming. Our military is way too spread out, way too thin. And if something pops off, we're probably going to have a draft. But it only takes 72 T-days to train a basic Marine, and then you go to AIT, but they would shorten that in time of war. So in about 3 months, we could bolster up, our numbers. But, you're not going to have people that are complaining and whining and crying like that guy said, because you want to, accomplish a mission and survive. So you better get plugged in and clue in, with your unit, with your platoon, with your squad, to do what needs to be done so you can survive, accomplish the mission and come home.
Yeah, no, I get it, man. I think that if it would happen, I think it would end up more like you're saying. I appreciate the call, Billy. Thanks so much. Kevin in Nashville, you're on line 3. You got a comment on World War III in the draft. What's up, Kevin? You're on Super Talk.
Yes, Chris, how you doing?
Good, man. How are you?
My thing is, I was a 23-year Air Force vet. Thing about a draft for the NCOs that got to train these guys, it is easier to train people that want to be there because they're motivated. The ones that do not want to be there are problem children. And that is not what you want. You don't want a bunch of problem children on your hands.
No,
and,
I totally get that.
And then the other part of this thing is why nobody wants to go in. I don't know. Could it be that a couple of decades of leftist politicians denigrating denigrating the country and denigrating the military has had an effect?
Amen.
Where people don't want to join because, well, I don't like America. There was nothing great about America and things like you heard that from politicians, professors in school, and things like and teachers in school. You get that kind of thing. That attitude kind of sinks in.
Hey,
and,
I think you're absolutely right. And it goes back to the schools. It goes back to the indoctrination. And I totally agree with you, Kevin. Thanks for the call. Really appreciate it. But we do have record low recruitment in the military. We do. The Army is struggling to recruit in 2023. Army Secretary Christine Wormuth previously said the service will miss its fiscal 2023 recruiting goals. That's the Army. Military recruitment is down. They're not meeting their goals. The military is falling short of its goals for the Army, Navy, and Air Force. The Army is going to be 10,000 short of its goal in 2023. The Air Force also expects to be 10,000 short of its goal. The Navy, 6,000 short of its goal. The percentage of active duty military members has fluctuated since 2001, but it's declined by 39% since 1987. It's hard to not look at what's happening now and see the similarities between the 70s and today. Conflicts that the American population doesn't want to be in. Radical Democrats. Rampant inflation. Energy crises. Go down the list. Weak, ineffective Democrat leadership. What's the old saying? History doesn't repeat itself, but it rhymes. It's rhyming right now. Larry in Clarksville, you're on line 2. What's up, Larry? You got a comment on World War III in the draft?
Yes, sir, Chris. And I completely agree. I mean, I think World War III is around the corner. I think that's what the industrial complex wants. And yes, I was chair force. I signed up at 17, but it was because I believed in this country and what it stood for. And the kids nowadays are being taught that we're such a hateful country and that we don't deserve to exist. And, I've trained a lot of kids. And the ones that don't want to be there are just like the last caller said, they're going to be problem children. And sadly, you can't spank children no more. Because listen, I got spanked when I was in, brother.
I believe it.
And that made me the old softy that I am now, that have trouble, expressing my opinions. But I don't know, man. I think they're going to have a draft, and thank goodness my son is old enough now. I think he'll be 37. I think he'll be out of the things for the draft.
Yep. No, and I was just, and I think you're right too, Larry. And thanks for the call. I was just saying to Mac, I'm 35. You're 25. They're going to take you before they take me.
Yeah, I'd assume.
Yeah, that's why Mac has been walking around with a noticeable limp lately. I'm flat-footed, I swear. Billy in Maury County, you got a comment on World War III and the draft. What's up, Billy? You're on Super Talk.
Yeah, I was drafted in '69.
What was that like, Billy?
What was that like? It was rough going through boot camp. And I tell you what, that made me grow up faster and become a man faster than anything, that 2 years I spent in the Army. But boot camp, I don't know about now, because even after I got out in '71, it was beginning to change in the Army a little bit, and how they conducted things. But if they would have DIs and trainers like we had back then, you learn not to be a problem child real fast.
I can imagine.
Because it was took care of, and a lot of times not by the DIs, which they made it rough on you, but it also made it rough on your whole company when someone acted up. So
no,
pretty well got took care of like that.
Yeah, no, I can imagine.
And,
So, Billy, walk me through the process on what it's like getting drafted. You get a letter in the mail?
Yep.
So lay it down for me, step by step. How did that happen for you? How did you find out you were drafted, and your thought process and what your steps were?
Okay, just got a letter in the mail telling us that we had been drafted and where to show up, to get on a bus, go to Nashville, and take a physical, and everything like that. And then you took your oath, and then in '69, when Vietnam was going on, Fort Campbell was a boot camp. So I took basic in Fort Campbell, and while I was up there, you were restricted to the barracks and everything, or the company there while you were in boot camp. Could get visits from your family about every month or so if you wanted to. If they wanted to come up, they'd have a visitation day. And then after basic, which, boy, in the summertime up there in Fort Campbell, it was hot, it was nasty, and you low crawled under the mess hall before you went to eat, and just all kind of things. But it was pretty doggone rough, I tell you.
Now, when you got the letter to be drafted, were you ever like, I'm not doing it, or were you just like, all right, here we go?
It was here we go, and I had just got married in February and got drafted in May.
Wow, crazy.
And but no, it was not no decision or thinking on my part that I wouldn't be going.
Hey, I appreciate your service, and thanks for that insight, Billy. That's interesting, man. I could talk to you all day. Thanks for the call. Really appreciate you. Bob, who's driving line 4, you got a comment on World War III and the draft. Bob, you're on Super Talk. What's up, man?
Good morning. I was drafted in the early '70s. I was in college. I wanted to go to flight school in the Navy, but at the time I was drafted, I didn't have the bachelor's degree. So I joined the Army to go to Warrant Officer Flight School. And basic training was exactly like the previous gentleman described. It certainly turned you into a man real quick. But I'm worried now that our military has become woke under General Miley, and that we got a bunch of pusswads that are out there. But I definitely think with a mandatory service or with a draft, it will make a man out of you. And it was probably the best thing that happened to me. I was a Cobra helicopter pilot. Very proud of what I accomplished in the military, and have a lot of very good friends to this day. I'm 70 years old, and if my country needed me today, I would be there.
Hey, I love it, man. Thanks for the call and the insight, Bob, and thank you for your service. Really appreciate all the calls. It's 11:21 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. My name is Chris Hand. This is The Chris Hand Show.
House Speaker voting is imminent. That's coming up at 11:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Thank you, Ken Weaver. It is Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Getting tons of texts and calls on the impending World War III draft possibility. And I appreciate all the calls. It's eye-opening to hear from a guy that actually got drafted, at least for me.
Fascinating, yeah.
Right? Like,
yeah.
I could talk about that all day, like just what your head goes through, what you're thinking, just going through those motions.
It's insane. Like, hey, you need to go on a bus, going to Nashville this day, and then
one day you're playing Little League Baseball, and 6 months later you're in country with a gun in your hand.
It's unreal.
Nuts.
Yeah, I couldn't imagine what that's like.
Not necessarily Little League Baseball, but high school baseball.
Yeah.
I mean, high school, definitely. You'd be 17. They would send you a draft letter, right? Hey,
I think you had to be 18.
Okay. I was thinking if you're 17 and a half, you're like, hey, we'll see you in 6 months.
But there were guys who tried to get in at 17.
Well, I mean, and we've had history of that in this country for a long time. I mean, there was young kids fighting in the Revolution, Civil War. But that was back when people, there was a stronger sense of nationalism in this country. It seems like that the love of the country isn't as high as it should be. And I point back to the education system. If you're not pledging allegiance to the flag, but the classroom has a pride flag in it, like you may hate the country. If you think if our history started in 1619, not 1776, well, you may hate the country. And it seems like that's a product of our government. Our tax dollars pay for that. It's unbelievable. Dan texted in. He said, my big question is why all the fighting-age males imported here financed by our government? Will they be signed up, drafted, or incentivized? Or are they replacements occupying our jobs and homes while citizens are drafted? Well, I always get visions of Rome whenever people say we should have the illegal aliens go fight the war for us. Just me. Eddie in Shelbyville, you have a comment on World War III in the draft. What's up, Eddie? You're on Super Talk.
Good morning. How are you doing?
Good, man. How are you?
I'm well. First and foremost, I was kind of curious. Is this mention of a draft, is it coming from official channels, or is it just something that the media may have drummed up?
No, we're just kind of we're ballparking right now. With the conflict escalating, World War III imminent, recruiting goals not hitting the mark in the Army, Navy, Air Force. I personally feel like we would have to have a draft. I don't think people are going to sign up. And then you look at what Gen Z has. Gen Z currently has the lowest overall approval rating for Israel. And with Israel being at the center of this conflict, I'm just kind of, going down the thought process of who's signing up.
Well, let me give you a little bit of background on me. I'm born in '68. We were taught Christian values. We were taught America. We were Pledge of Allegiance in school, morning prayer.
Amen.
You started taking all that out, and now down the road we've come to a country where what can the government do for me? And when it comes time for us to do for our country and our government, we're going to have a big problem with our young folks.
Oh, and I think we're seeing that problem rear its head right now. And thanks for the call, Eddie. I totally agree with you. And I appreciate the input. And I mean, you look at, we took God out of schools. What do we replace it with? Is it better? I mean, seriously, is it better? Oh, well, not everybody's Christian. Okay, well, would you rather them pray in the morning before class or learn about gender stuff and pronouns in third grade? Which is better? What did it get replaced with? I don't know. Just a question to ask. 11:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Ken Weaver's got the news.
$11:30 on the dot this Tuesday morning. I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories. Full forecast in 2 minutes. And right now in our nation's capital, lawmakers are considering Republican Jim Jordan's nomination to become the next Speaker of the House. Voting could run into this evening. The United Nations says no food, fuel, or fresh water has arrived in Gaza in more than a week since Israel imposed a blockade as part of its response to Hamas launching that deadly attack on Israel. Hospitals there in Gaza say they're running out of supplies. Ukraine's military and Russian pro-war bloggers say 2 Russian military air bases in occupied Ukraine have been decisively hit, with Ukraine claiming 9 Russian attack helicopters were destroyed and the runway of the 2 air bases destroyed. That's the latest news. Weather is next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News.
Hi, I'm Paul Winkler. We know that diversification is an important part of the investing process, but how do you reduce risk of a portfolio through diversification? Well, you use correlations. Now think of bathing suit sales and suntan oil sales. They tend to move together, right? Think of bathing suit sales versus winter coat sales. More dissimilar movement, and that's the idea. But why is diversification so important? Well, think about it this way. Everybody would like to have this happen with their investments. They just go straight up. But what we know is this is really what tends to happen. Markets may go way up and then down, or down then way up. Now let's say if we isolate parts of that curve right there, and the first curve right there, and the second curve right there. If you're putting money away for retirement, every time you put money in, if this is what's going on, you're buying more shares. Then just before you retire, the market goes up, you're really happy. If on the other hand, you keep paying a higher and higher price and then the market goes down, you're really sad. And we can't choose what's going to happen with the market next. But what we can do is what we know through academic research, and there are Nobel Prizes awarded for this, is we can look for things that tend to move in dissimilar fashion. And what happens when we do that, we can reduce the volatility of the portfolio, hence bringing those curves in. Now that's the idea. Now, if you want to learn more about our approach to investing and financial planning, go to paulwinkler.com and set up a free 15-minute phone call. Or you can call 615-851-1950.
Hey, it's Chris Hanford, Jeff Eddy's Efficient Heating and Cooling. Now, I know it can be so hard to find somebody you trust when it comes to these large home repairs, and that includes heating and cooling. As you're finding yourself kicking on your heat for the first time this season to get the chill out of the air in the morning, if it's sputtering and not working, you need to call somebody, and you need to call somebody you trust. Well, that man is Jeff Eddy in Efficient Heating and Cooling. Now, they're a small company with big service and even bigger results. I trust Jeff and his crew to do what's right, and you can too, because they prove it every single time. If you're trying to make the decision whether to repair or replace your system, call Jeff and his crew, because the other guys, they'll just pressure you to replace your system because they make more money that way. Jeff and his crew just want you to make an informed decision. So they'll walk you through every option and scenario so that way you can make that informed decision. And if that means replacing a part, they'll tell you that that's the right decision. If it means you got to replace a whole unit, well, they can do that for you too. And Efficient offers up to 18 months, same as cash financing on that next unit. They're a diamond contractor with Mitsubishi Electric and an Elite Pro partner with Rheem. Go to efficienthvac.net or call 615-784-4424.
And they're getting beaten very badly by me in the polls. They think the only way they can catch me is to stop me from speaking. They want to take away my voice. And a judge gave a gag order today. Did you hear that on speech? Which I believe is totally unconstitutional, what she did. A judge gave a gag order. A judge doesn't like me too much. Her whole life is not liking me. But she gave a gag order. You know what a gag order is? You can't speak badly about your opponent. But this is weaponry all being done because Joe Biden is losing the election and losing very, very badly to all of us in the polls. He's losing badly. But what they don't understand is that I am willing to go to jail if that's what it takes for our country to win and become a democracy again.
Now, before we get the super texters, it's a constitutional republic. Super Talk 99.7 WTN, 1136. My name is Chris Hand. That was President Trump last night in Iowa. Absolutely based. I'll go to jail. Can you imagine? I got a text earlier. It said, Trump can probably run a better campaign from a jail cell than Joe Biden can run from a basement.
For real, though.
Wrecked. I love it. I mean, there's so much going on right now. We have a House vote going on the floor. Jim Jordan expected to become Speaker of the House if he can get those votes. We have Joe Biden traveling to Israel. I keep thinking he's going to show up and be like, what? This isn't Ohio. He said we were going to Palestine. And they're going to say, no, sir. We're going to Israel and Palestine for that conflict. Oh, I thought you said we're going to the Midwest. The Mideast, sir. The Mideast. He's going to need a nap after this visit. He'll be back sometime in November, I'm sure. But do we have the votes yet? Is Jim Jordan the Speaker?
Not yet. Right now, call the House. Got present 219 Republicans, 211 Democrats present. So got 430 people there. Let's see if they've started yet.
All right. We'll keep you updated on what's happening with Jim Jordan. We're also talking about World War III and a potential draft. Dave in McMinnville, you've been waiting on the line. Dave, what's up? You're on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Well, here's the rat hole, my friend. I'm a senior citizen. I was sent my papers for the draft back between Thanksgiving and Christmas when I was young. I had to have them filled out. The government had to have them back in their hand by my birthday at the end of January, or I would be subjected and arrested. Now, here's what the people don't realize. Our draft still exists somewhat, but how many millions do we know that's living on welfare? The United States government does not send them. You have to go to the post office, and if you're lucky, you can ask for one and get it. Now, on top of that, all federal programs, welfare especially, any of these programs, federal loans, et cetera, you are not eligible for nothing if you are not registered with the draft, including, as far as I know, it's still that way today. But you don't hear that. So draft, you ain't going to see a draft. If this starts coming down, it's going to be mass chaos, and you better hope you got your tail covered. Because other than that, it's well, I can't say that on the radio like my dad used to, but it's going to be a real cluster. And I suggest everybody out there in the hearing land, you best have something in your possession to protect your home, protect your food, protect your butt, because otherwise we're in trouble. Now, on top of that, if people don't start speaking up, complaining, starting a movement to stand and protest, the Constitution says shoulder to shoulder we can take them out and have them arrested, have them persecuted, whatever we need to do. But a few people like me, there's not enough of us. We need some millions. How about somebody joining the Army here and help get things going in the right direction? We can get our country back. Appreciate your time. Y'all have a fine one.
Hey, I appreciate the call, Dave. Thanks. Have a great day. It's an interesting topic. I asked Mac to check on that while we were talking. If you can't be drafted if you're on welfare, I'd never heard that before.
Yeah, I haven't found anything on it yet.
It's fascinating. Something worth digging into. I would reckon you should almost be drafted first. Got to pay that back. But I don't know. Probably doesn't work that way in Biden's America. Probably doesn't work that way. Hey, Ronnie, on line 1, you got a comment on World War III in the draft. Ronnie, what's up? You're on Super Talk.
I have a couple of comments. One is for the last 2 or 3 days, I'm kind of burnt out on it, and I know it's out of your control, is they keep telling us about how the Palestinians, the hospitals are about out of water and out of electricity and all that. I'd rather hear how Israel is doing, if they're being provided for and cared for. So I had that to comment on. The other one is don't underestimate the loyalty and patriotism of America.
No, I totally agree with you.
If it came to war or someone attacked the United States, you'd have plenty of patriots that would volunteer. And as far as a lot of people don't want to sign up now, I mean, put yourself in a young man's position. Would you want to be in a foxhole with a guy over there sucking his thumb or something? Or maybe, well, I won't say that. But anyway, those guys need to be home with mommy anyway. You don't want them in the service with you.
No.
That's my comment.
Hey, I totally get it. Thanks for the call, Ronnie. I appreciate you. Jeff in Gallatin, you're next on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. What's up, Jeff?
Hey, how's it going? Yeah, so I had to step away. Hopefully I'm not repeating anything that's already said, but rhetorical is think of what's happened and how we've gotten here and how authoritarian things have become in our nation. We've had a president with 2 Marines standing in the background, basically talking down to half of the country.
Yep.
And I disagree with the previous caller because the draft is coming. We're having problems with retention, keeping people in service, problems in recruiting. It'd be interesting to see how our levels look compared to what the congressional limits on the numbers in each rank are, those kinds of things. I think it's going to get bad, though, because if the military is trying to recruit you and you don't want to serve because of our president and how political everything's became, I would say make sure you tell that to your recruiters.
Yeah.
If anybody's out there listening, because they need to know that.
Absolutely.
They need to know that the wars being fought overseas are being fought for political reasons and for money. They're not being fought for solutions.
No, it's to enrich the military-industrial complex. You're absolutely right. Thanks for the call, Jeff. And I think one thing that we haven't talked about at all, and it's like, kind of the elephant in the room, it's the way that we treat our service members. We quite literally kicked out U.S. military members for refusing an experimental COVID vaccine. Guys that go in there and put their lives on the line, we kicked them out because they didn't want to take an experimental vaccine. How do we treat veterans that return home? How many homeless veterans do you see? A lot. So I think when these recruitment numbers are down, the government does need to do a little bit of looking in the mirror and some introspection, because we should be rolling out the red carpet for our veterans, but we're not. We're kicking them out when they don't want to get an experimental jab that ends up not working anyway via mandates. We're not taking care of them when they get back home. We're just letting them fend for themselves. It's terrible. It's terrible how we treat them. You look at these low recruiting numbers. The Army's down 10K in 2023. Air Force down 10K in 2023. The Navy's down 6K in 2023. They're missing their recruitment goals. But who wants to enlist and fight for a government that's going to force you to take an experimental vaccine? Who wants to enlist and fight for a government that's not going to take care of you when you get home? So I think a draft would have to come. I think I think you're crazy to think it's impossible. Brian in Clarksville, you're on line 2. Brian, what are your thoughts on World War III and a potential draft if it was to come to that?
Well, I don't want to see it because I'm like the other guys that talked before. You get the quality of people when you don't make them do something they don't want to do anyway, and sucking their thumb and all that stuff. That's the truth. my son was in the Marine Corps, and he had night watch sometimes where they had to watch the crazies that were trying to act silly so they could go back home to mommy after they'd made a mistake of joining. But I wanted to tell you, there's a guy that mentioned something there in serving and the draft and all. I think we still have what's called selective service, and you would even have that. I've done some things that you may want to do through the federal government, as in try to get a job. I don't know why. I must have lost my mind, but years ago I worked for the federal bankruptcy court here, well, not here, but in Nashville, and you had to be selective service registered. And I've done that since. I've applied for other jobs on USA Jobs and all, and they always want to know what your number is. I have to go look that stuff up because I did register. And, in fact, I was in for a little minuscule time with the Army. And so just wanted to offer that up. There is a registration. I think even now children have to do with 18 years old in high school maybe.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll look into it. Thanks for the call, Brian. I really appreciate you, man. Andrew McMinnville, you have a comment on World War III in the draft. Andrew, you're on Super Talk.
Yes, sir. I was in the Army from 2012 to 16, and I was in Special Operations with the Ranger Regiment for about 3.5 years. And the only thing I can say about the draft is, man, I have 3 daughters right now. I hope it never comes to that because in today's politics, I'm sure they're going to start pushing girls to be drafted too. And I would hate that more than anything. But at the same time, the soldiers that are in right now are some of the hardest men I've ever been around.
Mm-hmm.
And a platoon of 40 guys could take out, 5,000 that don't want to be there. So I hope it never comes to it. And I pray for this country. I pray for Israel. Thank you.
Hey, thanks for the call, Andrew. I pray for this country as well and pray for Israel as well. And I appreciate your input on the topic. And I hope a draft never comes. But I do think that it's important to have these conversations before it comes. You don't want to be caught off guard on this. And it does seem like it could definitely be a possibility. If this keeps going the way it's going, I mean, who are you kidding to think it's not a possibility? It absolutely is. Recruitment numbers are down. War's big business. We already sent 2,000 soldiers over to the Middle East region ready for deployment, which is so funny to me. We're sending you over there to be ready for deployment. Well, you're technically deploying me over there. Technically speaking, of course. It's 11:48 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Matt Murphy's checking in with us next. Let us know what he's got coming up on Murphy Show at noon. Don't forget, Brian Wilson and the Drive starts at 3 o'clock. We got a whole day of information and opinion on here. Super Talk 99.7 WTN. 11:55 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. My name is Chris Hand, joined in the studio by the one and only Matt Murphy.
The only one you care about, baby.
That's it. You know, I defended you this morning on the Amigos segment. I forget who said something. Said, Murphy will get angry about that. I said, Murphy doesn't get angry.
So Dan Mandis told a lie on the Amigos segment. I want to call him out on it because I happen to hear that.
Did you hear me defend you?
And I did. I did hear you defend me. There is 0.000 chance that Dan Mandis was making a joke about Buc-ee's not being a truck stop by calling it a truck stop. Mandis got caught with the old proverbial shorts down.
The jorts.
And he called it I heard him. He called it a truck stop. And everybody was like, it's not a truck stop. And they got on him. And now he's trying to, you see how they do? And even our own. See how they try to twist history just a little bit? That's all I'm saying. But thank you for defending my honor. I would never get upset about anything.
Matt doesn't get angry about anything.
Just,
Matt is the most chill, even-keeled guy I know.
Just as cool as the other side of the pillow. That's what they say.
It's like you try to make him angry, and he's just happy.
Yeah, I never come in hot.
Never. What do you got? What's the latest score on this speaker race? Where you think it's going to happen?
I don't know. I think I'm going to let this vote happen during my entire show and watch as the listening audience, go out and watch as the listening audience commits personal Harry Carey.
You should just live stream them going, yay, nay.
Burchett, Brown. I mean, oh, man. Have you seen the lip syncing? I know you have. The lip syncing that they overlay on some of this stuff. Yeah. Oh, it's so good. It's so good. No, well, I guess we'll follow this thing. Tim Burchett is supposed to be on at 12:30 to 12:35, I should say, to tell us what's going on. He's probably voting right then.
It's a safer show than Brian Kilmeade.
Oh, man. Kilmeade. I used to have such respect for Kilmeade. He was the reason that I watched Fox and Friends because I always hated Ducey.
He's really turned into a shill.
Yeah, he's been Washingtonized.
Did you hear Trump? He kind of like Kilmeade tried to lure Trump into bashing Gates. Did you hear that?
Mm-mm.
All right, here it is.
Let's go.
All right, hang on.
Let's do this.
Second. This is Kilmeade bashing
by leading a march to oust Kevin McCarthy.
Said, did Matt Gates hurt us?
He was upset that Kevin was doing a lot of the Obama work. He was working on the budget and getting something approved that, we could have gotten a lot for. And the debt ceiling, everybody was hurt with that. At the same time, Kevin's a great guy. He's a wonderful guy, but people were hurt by that. It depends. I mean, it depends on how good the new speaker, whoever that may be, how good he does. I mean, maybe we'll end up with one of the great speakers of all time, in which case Matt Gaetz did a tremendous favor.
So Kilmeade was trying to bait him into bashing Matt Gaetz, and Trump
not going to have it.
Trump didn't take the bait.
I mean, I didn't like certain aspects of what Gaetz did, but I mean, and I don't think our audience, yours or mine, needs a reset. But McCarthy made promises, and he did not fulfill the promises, and he gave Gaetz a trigger if he did not fulfill his promises, and Gaetz initiated that trigger. Now, as a result, guess what we're going to get? We're going to get Jim Jordan, who I think is a far more conservative individual. He's in at least a reddish state, more red than blue, and I think he's going to fulfill the promises.
Do you believe the rumors that he's getting the votes by tying Ukraine to Israel funding?
I've heard the rumors. I don't know that Jordan would do that. I mean, it remains to be seen. By the way, I would caution all of our conservative listening audience that is in favor of Jim Jordan that the next 2 months are going to be very, very messy, and I would beg of you not to judge his speakership by the next 2 months because it's going to be messy to extract us out of what McCarthy got us into.
I'm going to judge him right away. He's got.
I'm judging him right now.
He's got 15 minutes. Matt Murphy's up next.
Clean it all
Super Talk 99.7 WTN.